Alright, welcome back to 651 Customs. In this episode, we're going to get the leaf springs on the rear of the Jeep. I'm going to do a transfer case rebuild, probably. I may make that its own video, I'm not sure yet. But we're going to start by just getting the rear leaf springs on, get the back end of this thing jacked up, and then figure out a transfer case. So, let's get to it. Okay, before I get started here, I just want to show off the small progress I've made in getting the shop cleaned up. A lot of you may have noticed how cluttered this space is with all the background you've seen, and as you can tell, I've got a long way to go. But one corner, one piece at a time. I'm pretty happy with how this turned out. I've still got to do some organizing with the toolboxes and whatnot, but for the most part, that space is cleaned up. So with that being said, let's get to the building here. Okay, here's all the parts I've got left to install. I went ahead and got the replacement leaf springs to go with this kit, because the old ones have like 300,000 miles on them, and who knows how they've been treated. We've got the shocks, brake line, hardware kit, and I did not get the skid plate for the transfer case installed. I'm going to rebuild the transfer case first, and then that way I can get it up in there, and then I'll put this on. I've also got the sway bar link mount holding bracket thingies I've got to install. And that's my sway bar disconnect pins, so that'll hold the sway bars when I get them disconnected. But yeah, not too much left of the lift kit to install, so we're gonna try and get that done today, hopefully, and then we can move on to making this thing roadworthy. All right, I've got you set up underneath or on the floor here. I'm gonna start by getting the shocks disconnected, and then get that exhaust out of the way. I've got the exhaust disconnected, but if I get the shock out of the way, I think I can just bring it back and slide it out. So I'm going to start with that. I got to get that brake line out of there, and then I'll get my leaves out of the way. And I guess first thing I can do is probably jack this thing up and get it sitting level, and then I'll should be able to get the leaf spring stuff off it, but that'll give me some more room to work. Let's do it. Time lapse now. Okay, that took 1 hour, basically, but I got it out. That was tough. It kept breaking and jumping, and then instead of just spinning regularly, it would give a little bit all of a sudden, and I was only able to get like that much of a turn every time it would give. So I was eventually able to get it out. The impacts weren't doing anything. I tried the electric impact, I tried the air impact, neither of which could do it until I got it close to coming out. So that was difficult. Now I've got to move on to the rear. That should be a little more difficult because I don't think I can get the bolt out. Let me turn some light on. Okay, I don't think I can get that bolt to go out because of the hitch in the way. There's not enough room there. And then the other side, I think it's even tighter, maybe. But I'm gonna try. So, may cut it, replace it or something. Or I might have to take that hitch off. I really don't want to because that thing is rusty. So, I'm gonna reuse the factory shackles, I guess you call them, because the kit didn't come with any, and they're in good enough shape. They're not rusted out from what I can tell. All the paint is peeling off. Let's see. Yeah, the paint peels off, but it's still fairly solid underneath, so should be fine. The paint holds water in, and that's why things rust out. Okay, I also mixed up this concoction. I had a can of PB Blaster, and it didn't have any pressure left in it. So I punched a hole in it, dumped it in here, and that filled my jug, or the thing, up about right there. So I filled it up with some acetone, and then I put some mineral spirits to thin it out, and it sprays really, really easy. You barely have to touch that trigger. So that will penetrate pretty good with the ATF PB Blaster mix. The best penetrating fluid you can get is ATF mixed with acetone, but I had mineral spirits and a can of PB Blaster that didn't want to spray anymore, so just mix that up, and that's what I'm going to use, but it should work pretty good. So it didn't work on that front spring mount on the other side very well, but I wasn't able to get the stuff in there where it would be able to penetrate. So I'm gonna set the camera back up, do this side, get this all detached, and work on, I've got to figure out how to get that bolt out of the rear there. So kind of wonder how easy it would be to drop this thing, to get that bolt out, maybe drop it down and then get that out or something. I don't know, I'll figure something out. The this hitch may have to just go, but we'll see. I'll record that when I get to that point. Okay, big moment here. I got the hitch off, got that bolt out. Let's get this out of the way. Maybe. There it goes. Let it flip over. And we're out. There it is. That is one leaf down. That was hard, but not impossible. I was able to do it in like 2 hours. No, it took longer than that. That's took a lot of work to get to this point. So I'm gonna go ahead and just time lapse the other side, get that spring out, and then I'll be back when I'm putting new springs in. Okay, got the leaf springs out. I gotta get the sway bar out of the way, and then I'm gonna have to fix this. I broke the bolts off when I took that shock out. I'm going to cut the head off a bolt and weld that on there and use it like a stud. Just gonna weld studs onto where the bolt holes are, and then I shouldn't have to worry about this again. So that's my plan with that. I've seen a lot of crazy solutions people have come up with, like for example, some of these solutions I've seen is people will take this off and they'll bolt it up in there somehow, or probably weld it or something. You could probably get away with welding that, but they'll take this bracket and then stick it up in there and bolt the shock to it. But I don't like that solution. I'm just gonna weld studs up in there, and then I'll be able to bolt it up there like normal, just with nuts. So I'm gonna get that welded in there, and then that way I can get these leaves in, and I want to get that done while I've got room. So I'm gonna set up the time lapse and get that. Okay, got my studs welded in. I just threw some nasty looking tacks on there. I ran out of MIG wire, so I used the stick welder with some little tiny rod and managed to get them on there. So I'm gonna get the shock bolted up there now. The other one, I can use factory bolts because I didn't destroy it. So gonna get that bolted in, and then we'll get these leaf springs in. Okay, studs are welded in. I ran out of MIG wire, had to use stick welding, and that was just a disaster. But I got them attached solid, and I was able to tighten that down with the impact, and nothing broke off. So I'd say those studs are on there good. So that should work. I'm going to move on to the leaf springs now. Well, I'm probably going to put the other shock in. Then I'll do leaf springs. You know, I'm somewhat of a genius. So these springs are not right from the from rough country. You have to flex them to get them to go into the shackle. I've got this one really close. I used some wood block here, and basically as I jacked it up, it slid up into place up here, and it's pretty close. I'm going to see if I can pry on that and then shove a bolt through it, if I can find the bolt. Okay, I couldn't wait. Went ahead and put the wheels on. Got the bolts and leaf springs tightened up enough. I gotta torque them down once I get everything together. But I went ahead and put the tires on just to see the ride height. And if I can get far enough back for this camera, let's see. Doesn't do it justice. The wheels look way too small, which I'll probably fix that one of these days. This is kind of one of those it'll be a while kind of things, but those tires have good tread. I thought about selling them and getting bigger tires, but I'm just going to run them for now because the tread's good, so no point in wasting that. Plus the gearing is still the same, so with the smaller tires it'll be better for the gears that are in it. If I do get bigger tires, I may also consider doing a gear change. Don't know yet, but that's would ideally be the thing to do. But let me put this on wide angle mode and we will really get a look at it. There we go. Now you get a feel for just how ridiculous this thing looks. Those wheels are way too small. But I like it. It looks good. The rear will settle a little bit from what I've heard. You can see the front end there is a little lower. I don't think that 302 I put in there is much difference weight wise fully dressed with the 4.0, so it shouldn't have really gained any weight minus the lift kit, which those arms are a lot beefier, but otherwise should be about the same. So I got to finish up on the brakes. I got to do that brake line. I got to connect the I got to get the shocks connected at the bottom. I got the tops mounted. What else? Driveline and the SYE kit. Speaking of which, let's look at the driveline angle because I've got the factory shaft in there right now, and I'm curious to see just how off or on it really is. So, okay, this is the factory drive shaft. The angle is pretty steep, but the SYE kit will help with that. And at the front of the drive shaft, as you can see, it's way out there. It's probably got an inch, maybe, of engagement. So that's definitely not enough. But I got the rough country drive shaft, and from what I've read, it says there's only like 1.5 inches of engagement on that one in the slip yoke or the slip joint in it. So I don't really know how much it needs. It's kind of weird, but that's a pretty steep driveline angle, so that other drive shaft will help with that vibration or anything, just in case I have it. I won't have to worry about it because I've got the slip yoke eliminator, so that'll be good. I've got to get the transfer case redone, so I'm kind of nervous about that because I've never done a transfer case. I did the transmission in this Jeep. It wasn't too bad. I assume the transfer case is not going to be very difficult either. So, but I'm also debating on whether I can do it without taking it out, or if I'm going to have to pull it completely out of here and all that. We'll just have to see. I don't know if I've got all the pullers I need and all that stuff. But yeah, we'll just wait and see. As you can see at the back of the, or right there at the seal there on the transfer case, there's a lot of oil on the underbody, so it was leaking. It looks like that is a lot of oil. So it'll be good that I get the transfer case rebuilt because that'll fix the leaks. So yeah, pretty excited about that. But I'm gonna set the camera up, time lapse the brake line, and getting those shocks mounted. I'm gonna go ahead and just get that done, get it out of the way, and then we'll move on to something else. Okay, it is now the next day. It's much warmer today, about like 10 degrees. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this brake line out of here. It's pretty tight, as you can see, so gotta get that out of the way, and then we'll get the new one in. So first I gotta find the size for that. It should be 9/16, and then 3/8 lines. So let's get this out of here. Okay, had to remake the brake line. You may notice I'm keeping the stuff on it. I'm just gonna leave it on because no point in changing what the factory did. I'm sure they did it for a reason. A lot of people say this will rust it out, but the line always looks good underneath the spring. So I don't know, gonna keep it. But I'm gonna get this flared. I just gotta tighten it down, loosen it up, and it should be good. And throw it on there, and should be good to go. Okay, got the brakes done. I didn't bother recording putting it in. I tried to record taking the line off, and it was kind of a mess. But got it done now. I need to bleed the brakes, front and rear. But first, I think I'm gonna try and get these shocks connected. I haven't done that yet, but the trick here is to cut it and then wait till it gets down here and shove it on the stud. So I'm going to attempt that, get those bolted up, and then we'll probably bleed the brakes. Okay, let's see if this works. Oh, yep, there we go. Almost. Oh, there it is. I'll just put the bolt on it, tighten it down, and or put the nut on it and tighten it down. That'll get it the rest of the way. But that went pretty good. Got the string on there. I'm gonna do the other side just like that, and we'll have it done. Then bleed the brakes. Alright, I went ahead and got the trailer hitch back on. While I was at it, I also self-tapered the trailer plug back up in there. It was never attached. Like, the previous owner just never attached it. So, went ahead and did that. Got the shocks tightened down. They look good. Got to tighten the U-bolts. Because they're not completely tight yet. So also I torqued these down as well, so front and rear, both sides. So getting everything tightened up, and then once it's tightened, I kind of just want to get this thing all tightened and all that stuff out of the way. Then all I'll have left to do is bleed the brakes. So just gonna do that real quick and then move on to brakes. I'm kind of stalling on the brakes because that's a painful process. I've got to hook up a bottle to them, and I'll show you how I like to bleed brakes when I get to that point. But that'll be the next scene. Okay, about to bleed the brakes. This is my bleeder setup. A used bottle with a vinyl hose in it, and this on the end here came off of a vacuum fitting vacuum line out of one of the Ford trucks. So I just stuck it in the end of the hose, and I just got to stick it on my bleeder in there, which I've already loosened, and also took it all the way out to make sure there was no obstructions. So I'm gonna stick my little vacuum rubber grommet on there, and then I'll pump the pedal about 10 times until I see good fluid, no bubbles coming out. And doing it this way, I don't have to have anybody to open and close the bleeder, because when I let off the pedal, it'll push the bubbles down into the bottle and then out into the atmosphere, right? And when it sucks back up, it can only get fluid because there's old fluid in here. But when I pump new fluid through it, it'll fill up some. But yeah, that'll allow the bubbles to go down and fluid to come back up. So that will that should work pretty good. I've done it like this on basically every vehicle I've worked on, and all of them have pretty decent brakes. So okay, I got it set up here. I'm gonna go pump it, and when the bubbles stop, I want y'all to yell. That way I know. Okay, I'm going to look back over the footage and see if the bubble stopped. Okay, I checked the footage. It looked like there was still a little bit of bubbles in there, so I'm going to hook this thing back up and pump it a couple more times, and repeat that on all 4 tires, and then we'll move on to something else. Alright, I made it to the front brakes now. This front bleeder is larger than the rear bleeder for whatever reason. So the rear took a 5/16. This is a 3/8. I guess the rear is more like a 8mm, whatever, but same thing, 5/16. But yeah, so I just took the hose right up to it, and I don't know what size hose this is, but you can get it from like any hardware store. So I'm gonna get the fronts bled, and then the brakes will be done. Okay, brakes are bled. I went through and tightened everything up. I got my engine mount bolts tightened. I didn't have them tightened. All the suspension stuff is good and tight now. So I'm going to switch to working on spark plug wires and stuff. I've got some wires here that have done this. There is a way to fix this, and I'll show you here in a minute, but I'm going to take care of this and probably get my manifolds bolted on after I do the plug wires. And there's a couple more things in here I need to button up, so I'm going to try and get under the hood pretty much done or close to it, and then we'll move on to probably going to do the transfer case in its own little video. I'm never done one of those before, so I'm kind of stalling, you would say. So, but I'll do it eventually. I just want to wrap up some other things first. But let me get set up here, and I'll show you how to fix a broken plug wire. Okay, here I've got the end that came out, and the boot. So this one actually already crimped before and it broke on me, but I didn't crimp it good. I kind of overdid it. So we're gonna use this one, which is less overdone, and I should be able to fold that out so I can re-crimp it. And I don't have a spark plug crimper, but with a pair of pliers and a little bit of carefulness, you can get it crimped. So go ahead and pull this off. I believe this is the one I tried to repair before. I'm going to try again because I think I can get it. Now, I've got these other plug wires here, and a bunch of these are broke. These are all old ones. This one's missing the thing in it. I may try and repair this one because it seems to be in slightly better condition. So, and it's longer, and I have to go to that rear cylinder there. So, I think I'll try and repair it. Look and see what I've got here. So that one's good. So, look at my routing here. Everything's getting kind of crazy. I've got one back here that is a different, that needs to be longer. I need to look at that and see. Okay, so that one's kind of stretched. Let's see which one's longer here. Okay, so yeah, this is the broken one. This one I need to repair, so I'm gonna go ahead and fix it. And it is longer. I need to use the long one for that rear cylinder. Then I can use this one for the other one that is closer, but not. It's closer. Okay, so to get these off, it's pretty simple. You can just pull on them. You pull hard enough, it'll slide right off. And getting them back on is the hard part though, and that is where this grease comes in. This is just this is GM, Chrysler, European, Japanese. That's basically everything though, isn't it? Anyway, just generic, universal, high temp, whatever grease you can find, doesn't matter. It may not be good for the rubber to use this. I've actually got some silicone lubricant. I think I'm going to try it because silicone I don't think is as bad on rubber. So I'm going to grab that. Okay, I found this. I'm actually going to use this because I think it will be better for the rubber. I'm not sure, to be completely honest, but a couple of the things it lists on here have rubber that's similar, so whatever, this will work. Any grease, any lubricant will work. You just gotta be able to lubricate this up, that way it will slide back on. So first thing we're gonna want to do is get the which, looking at this now, this looks different. Let's see, where'd the old one go? Here we go. This, okay. So this, these look slightly different, I've noticed. This one, the metal is, or the wire is wrapped around. It's kind of, seems like a more sturdy design in my opinion. This is like a, I guess it's a graphite core kind of thing. I don't know. This one is aftermarket, it's Ultima, and I guess this is the factory. So I'm gonna go with the factory one just because I think it looks like a better design, or at least it'll be easier to put back together. This one's kind of weird with the way it's made. But anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and get started on stripping this, and once I got it cut down to something that'll work, I'll be back. Okay, I went ahead and got the little connector here spread back apart the best I could. Doesn't take much. I used my wire strippers because they have a end on them to grab things, and could probably use needle nose, but at least with the wire strippers you can strip your wire. So I'm going to strip this back enough that I can, the idea here is to fold the wire. You want to fold the wire around and then crimp it on. So see if I can gently remove the inner sheath. There we go, got the sheath removed. I'm going to clean that up a little bit. Okay, there we go, I got the end of it fairly straight now. Okay, so what I'm going to do, the trick to making these is you want to fold the conductor back, and it needs to be on the back side of the connector. So just fold it back, slide that in. I think I'm going to actually bend my tabs a little bit more so it's a straighter fit. So let's do that. Okay, so got that straightened out a little bit better. We're going to just slide that in just like that with the conductor on the back side. So now that we've got that in there, I'm going to go ahead and start trying to crimp it. Okay, so all I've done is work my way around this, and I just got it all curled around it good, nice and flat and straight. Now, I believe what I'm going to try to do is grab it with some, grab that with some vice grips like that. See if I can come in with the needle nose, or the crimpers I mean, and squeeze those tabs down. So I'm going to grab my tools, I'll be right back. Okay, took a minute to find them, but here we go. Alright, so now I've got that held in there like so. I'm going to attempt to squeeze those tabs down. Okay, that is about as close to a factory crimp as you can get. Okay, went ahead and used the large hole, so that's the far back hole, and just kind of squeezed it in there good, make sure everything's good and seated. And now I can pull on that pretty good. Doesn't feel like it's going to come off or anything. Still don't know if I trust it, but in a pinch, and if you're cheap like me, this will work. If not, temporarily. Probably just run through it here one more time. Just trying to make that crimp look a little bit better. You just roll it around in the crimper until you're satisfied. Alright, that's pretty good. I don't think I can pull it off, at least easily. Now I'm going to, I think I'll trim any excess off that. I don't know if I can get it. Well, anyway, so that's it. That's pretty decent. I'm going to fold this end over a little bit. There we go, make it more of a 90, because when I put this thing on, it's going to want to, has to go onto the plug, so that'll probably be good. I don't know how much of a 90 it really needs to be. Okay, at some point you have to just stop bending it and say, hey, that's good enough. Alright, so there it is. That's pretty decent. It should go into the boot pretty good. The angle's almost, I might bend that some more. I don't like the angle of it. Okay, yeah, that's pretty close. So it'll fit in the boot just like that. Now the hard part is getting it on the boot. Now if I was smart, I would have pulled it through, fixed it, and then pulled it back in. But I didn't. So now we gotta go through all this. But first I'm gonna put some lubricant on here, all over inside the boot, and that should allow me to just slide it right in, I hope. Alright, now I'm going to proceed to get this stuff everywhere. So let's do it. It's going. Well, there it is. It's in. Now the problem is it's full of grease. There we go. I went ahead and pushed it all the way through. I'm going to get the big ball of grease out of the end of it there. Get this thing wiped down. And then now it's lubricated. It'll be really easy to just pull it back in. So if you're doing spark plugs or anything, some sort of grease is, you can't go without it. So make sure you have something. I don't know if this is ideal or not. I know they make specific stuff to do this. I think silicone grease would have been perfect, but I don't really care too much. These are old plug wires. They need replaced. I just want to get this thing going, so I'm doing what I'm doing. So, but that is how you do that. Now, if I wanted to do it right, I would get the correct crimper and all the tools and spend all the money, but it's not in the budget. So I'm going to go ahead and check all the rest of them, make sure I don't need to fix any more, get all my plug wires on, check my firing order, and we'll move on to whatever else I need to clean up here. So those manifolds, got to get those on or bolted all the way down. I'll show you how I seal manifolds in the next scene here. Okay, it's a brand new day here. I don't remember what I filmed last time, but I was looking through here and I've discovered a leak on the power steering pump. I filled it with fluid yesterday, and for whatever reason it's leaking out of this fitting. I could feel it underneath the hose, so I'm gonna see if I can get that tightened a little better, maybe replace the line. I'm not sure what would be causing that leak, other than maybe the pump has a bad unless that nipple there is bad that line attaches to, which I don't think so. Like, I don't understand, unless maybe it's coming down off this. That does feel wet. Yeah, I think I just found a leak. I'm willing to bet that it's coming out of that. Could be wrong, but I'm gonna look into this a little more, dig in and see if I can figure out why it's leaking and what's leaking. And I'll come back to you when I've moved on to something else. Okay, I don't think I showed these engine mounts yet, but I remade them. This is the new design. I think I've got some pictures of it before I painted it and welded it up and all that. If you ignore the welds, it's pretty good. And on the other side, even shorter. The way I've got this engine sitting in here, it's really close to the passenger side. And like I was saying, this is so the engine sits really close to the passenger side. Ignore those welds there; they're really good, I promise. And the bell housing is basically touching. There we go. It's literally touching the firewall on this side. But the reason I did that is because on the other side, you can't see nothing. That if you look at that spark plug, it's really close, and I hammered out the firewall and stuff so that would fit, and it's still really close. So I had a lot of fitment issues like that. If I was gonna do this again, I would clearance the firewall and probably weld my engine mounts in while I was mocking things up before getting everything wired up and whatnot. So I couldn't just remove the engine to weld them. So the welds turned out horribly bad. But I got it done. So, but that's my engine mounts. So, okay, I may have fixed the leak. I'm not sure. But what I did is down here, I took a crap load RTV and put it on a bolt. I tried to heat the plastic up, and then I screwed the bolt in with the RTV. So hopefully that's enough to seal that. It's just a return anyway. It shouldn't have any pressure, so that shouldn't matter. And then up here, took a fitting. It's a vacuum fitting off an intake manifold, and then I cut down another brass fitting and used it as a lock washer. And then on the inside, I cut down another brass fitting and used it as a lock washer as well. And it looks like I need to clean that thing up a little bit because there's some dirt in there, but if this thing would focus a little bit. Yeah, so I just cut up another fitting, used it as a lock washer, and now I've got that thing tightly, securely locked and hopefully sealed into the plastic. I think it'll seal because I put this side on all the way, that lock washer, like till I couldn't tighten it anymore. And it's a tapered thread, so the thread should be sealed. And that lock washer, or lock nut, I guess you'd call it, that I made, the lock nut should get good contact with the plastic case. And that should also allow it to seal. At least that's what I'm going for. So with the threads sealed and the it's sealed on the case, I think it should be sealed. Yeah, so it should be sealed. So that should be good enough. I'm going to get that line hooked up. I'm replacing the line with a new piece because I didn't like, I mean, the old piece didn't have anything wrong with it. It was just the fitting that was leaking, but it's also too short now, so got a new piece going in, get that connected, and then I'm going to show you how I like to glue exhaust manifolds on, because I don't have gaskets and I'm too cheap to buy gaskets, so I'll show you how I'm going to seal those on there. Gotta find my red RTV. Okay, I went ahead and got this manifold put on. I cleaned up the surface really good with a wire wheel in the angle grinder, and then I cleaned up the heads. I couldn't get in there with the angle grinder with the wire disc, so I used a one on a drill to get in there, and I used, and you can see it, red RTV squeezing out. I didn't use too much. The best sealing surface is two flat surfaces coming together, because if you have nothing on there, they're completely clean, those two flat surfaces will seal. But these aren't flat necessarily, so to take up those gaps, I've used red RTV, and it works pretty good. I've done it on some other vehicles. If you use headers, it's recommended to install it this way, not with manifolds really, but it'll work for what I'm doing. So I also, before putting that on there, I wiped it down with mineral spirits just to give that stuff a chance of like sticking. I want it to stick good because when it sticks, it seals. If you've ever looked at like a diff cover or something somebody uses stuff on, you can grab the RTV and pull it out. It doesn't stick when the surface is greasy, and that's how you get leaks. So that side's on. I'm going to get the other side cleaned up, put it on. I may film it, probably not. It's just kind of boring to watch someone bolt headers on or manifolds on. The other side's even tighter. I should have filmed this side, but I'm gonna go ahead and get that done off camera, and then we'll move on, see what else we can get done this video. Okay, this is how I'm doing the manifolds. I cleaned them with a wire brush or wire wheel in the drill. Got them pretty shiny. There is some bad pitting from the gasket. Not super worried about it. Just gonna get them cleaned off with some mineral spirits, and then I got to do down in here, and then I'll put the RTV on. Okay, I got them cleaned up, got the heads cleaned up. Now I'm gonna put a dollop of RTV on each one of these, and I will spread it out with my fingers just like that. Now And that is all it takes to get a set of manifolds to really seal. Ideally, you use gaskets like the Rim Flex or whatever they're called. Those are really good gaskets. I just don't like the factory gaskets because they don't. I've had problems with getting things to seal in the past. At least with this, even though it's a pain to get off, it shouldn't leak, so you shouldn't have to take it off. I've had luck with it in the past, so. Plus, I'm too cheap to actually buy proper gaskets, so this works pretty good. This is the lowest low budget build. Spent all the money on the lift kit, so now I gotta pinch pennies. But there we go. That should be good. I'm gonna get that bolted on, and that might be it for this video. I've got a couple of small things to button up. I gotta just look around and see, but that's probably gonna be it for now. I might get to the exhaust, so that may be what I do next. Maybe not. Okay, I've decided to go ahead and fill up the trans. I'm using whatever cheap 1030 because it's an AX15 and you can get away with 1030. It's what I've ran in it ever since I rebuilt it. And this is probably the smartest thing I've ever thought of. I have this tube that will screw onto any bottle. It's got an adapter for smaller sizes. And all I've got to do is stick that in and then squeeze the bag. So that'll make filling the trans really easy, I hope. Okay, look at that. It's working. I just got to keep squeezing the bag. And eventually I'll have a little bit pouring out there, and that's how we know that the trans is full. Now I've still got to rebuild the transfer case, but there is a seal between the two, so it shouldn't leak any fluid when I pull the transfer case off. So I'm gonna go ahead and keep filling this until I get soaked in fluid, and I'll be right back with something else. Alright, this video is getting pretty long, and I've got one more thing I want to do before finishing it off. I've got this little device here. Now what this is a universal tachometer adapter. So I went ahead and set it up with the settings on it, and I'll show you that. So I should be able to hook this thing up to the tach wiring on the Jeep and off the cool or whatever, and it should make the tachometer factory tach work. So I'm gonna go ahead and get that done. I'll show you how it works and whatnot. And you can get these on eBay. So I'm gonna go ahead and set the camera up here, and then I'll go ahead and get it installed. Okay, I went ahead and checked here at the cool to make sure I knew what wire colors I needed. The red should be power, and I'm looking for a tan with a yellow stripe, and that is right here on the ignition module. That should be cool negative for the signal. So that'll be where I get the RPM signal from. In this ball of harness, I've got, if I can find the end of the tape, it's where the factory tach wire is. That would have went to the computer, or the CPS, I think is where it went. I'm going to go ahead and get this opened up. Okay, I went ahead and got the wire cutters and a little coffee can full of connectors. So I'm going to go ahead and start hooking this up. Okay, here it is. So when you get one of these, this is how it comes in a little bag. And if you look at it, you've got your ground, 12 volt, tach output, signal input. So you've got two tach outputs. Now if you flip this over, you'll notice on this row, on this side, is directly behind this. So you look at it as if you're looking through the device. So on the back side, you may have noticed there is this piece of tape over these switches, and depending on what way you have these switches, which ones you have on and off, depends on the multiplier. So depending on which signal you're converting will determine which ones you have on and off. So it comes with this weatherproof tape, or I'm not sure what kind of tape it is, but it's waterproof tape. This has all got potting compound in it. Seems to be pretty high quality. So if it gets wet or anything, no moisture will be able to get in there, which is great, because unlike the computer on this Jeep, this will at least live, hopefully. So that computer has no water protection. They're generally mounted inside the cab, so this could be good or bad. We'll see how it goes. But I got this on eBay, and it calls himself the Widget Man, so it's pretty cool. Let's go ahead and get it hooked up here with some spade connectors. And I will explain what all of these are in a second. I'm going to go ahead and get this thing started. Okay, got a spade connector here on the tach wire. So, because the Jeep runs off CPS, CPS runs off 5 volts from the computer, and is a square wave kind of thing. That's what this will output. Now I'm going to put it on the 5 volt option. There's also a 12 volt output option, but I'm going to run it to the 5 volt because that's what the sensor in the Jeep, the CPS, would have output. So hopefully that'll work. If not, I will switch it to the higher output 12 volt signal. But if I did my research right, it should work on the 5 volt. So. Okay, now let's go ahead and look at the cheat sheet here. This will tell you what settings to put those switches on, and different types of inputs for your applications. So I'm doing 8-cylinder, and I'm going to 6-cylinder. So that's a 4:3 ratio, and my switches will be set on, off, on, off. And then there's actually 2 more switches, because this is a 7 switch setup. So there we go. The last 2 switches, 6 and 7. 6 is a filter. 7 is for a low voltage input, like out of a ECU, I guess, or something. We do not need that because we're running a high voltage, so we want to make sure that's off. Otherwise, the high voltage could fry the unit. And number 6 is a filter, so we're running off a cool with the high voltage. We're going to turn the filter on because it's it could be a noisy signal, so we want it to be able to read as accurately as possible. And then the first 5 is on, off, on, off, and that will give me the correct ratio from 4:3 for the tach to be correct. So I'm going to go ahead and hook up my power and ground, and we'll test this thing, see if it works. And one more thing before I forget, this is the instruction manual. If you buy this, make sure you read through everything because it explains how it works. It explains everything to do with the wiring, configurations, the filtering, what I mentioned on switch 6 there, low voltage applications, which is switch 7 if you have low voltage you want to put into it. Mounting talks about how it's water resistant. You can mount it wet, dry location, no problem. And the switches themselves, how to configure it. So just and testing to make sure you have it set up right and what the inputs, outputs, multimeter voltages should be. But yeah, if you buy this, make sure you read the instructions completely and entirely, and that you understand what you're setting up. The more you know, the easier it'll be to understand why you're doing what you're doing. And then there's the typical hookups here, which yeah, this is your typical hookups. They also talk about the capacitors and resistors. They send you a little baggie with the different resistors and things and capacitors and all that. So for me, I will probably have to run the 220K filtering resistor for my application, being a high power cool that I'm running this off of. But it may work without it, so I'm going to try it. It's not going to hurt anything to not use it. It'll just be a more noisy signal. But yeah, definitely make sure you read through all the instructions that are provided, because I've learned a lot from those so far. And let's go ahead and start wiring some things here and see if I need the extra resistor or not. Okay, all right, believe it or not, that's hooked up now. So I went ahead and kept with the coloring for the most part. Tan is the ignition negative or the cool negative, red is cool positive, black is the ground for the device, and then the gray one is the tach for the Jeep tach. So got all my wires hooked up here. Let's head inside here and fire it up for a second, see if the tach does anything. It should work. I've got the thing hooked up. Let me grab my keys. Forgot to hit record, but as you can see, we have got a tachometer. I have reason to believe that it's off. I'm going to try a different setting. It does work though. I'm going to try a different setting on the switches and see if that helps anything. Okay, scared me for a minute because the RPM was working, but I was looking at the miles per hour, and it said 0 naturally. So I'm going to try something to see if it makes it a little bit different. It may be idling where it says it is, but I'm gonna go ahead and switch these around for a different different signal, because I'm afraid that tachometer is a 4-cylinder tach. I swapped it out a long time ago and it never read right. So I think we're close. So I think it might be a 4-cylinder tach. So if we go 8 to 4, that's a 2 to 1 on the ratio. So that's on, off, on, off. And the only difference in what I have is the first two, which is on to off. So if we look right here, flip it over where I've got the numbers where I can see them. Okay, so it's gonna be hard to hold and do, but the first two need to be swapped positions. So if I get this one to off and that one to on, that is 4-cylinder 8 to 4 mode. So let's fire it up again and see if that made any difference. The good news is this little tach adapter, it works. The other news is I'm probably going to have to add that resistor in to filter the signal, because it was still a little erratic. But that resistor should make this thing do what I need. I'm not sure I'm going to add it. I may try and like wrap it around the wires and crimp it in the connector. That'll probably do it. But I'll do that in a second. First, let's test it out on 4-cylinder mode. I may switch it back. Okay, so that was on 4-cylinder mode. It did show lower RPMs, which I'm not sure which one of those was more correct. I've got another tach. I may try setting it up and seeing if I can get an accurate reading. Still unsure about that, but yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and put that resistor in there, I think, because it was kind of erratic, and maybe test out the other tach and see if it makes a difference. But yeah, I'd say this thing works. It seemed like it reacted kind of slow to the revs, but I'm not sure if that was just the noise, because the engine's loud and I can't really tell what it's doing. But I may fool with this later. We know it works for now. I've got some fine tuning on it to do, of course. But yeah, if you're looking to adapt a Cherokee tachometer to any V8 4-cylinder, any engine at all, actually, this little unit right here will do it. Just takes a little bit of fine tuning, which I'll do off camera. But I think I'm going to end the video here. This one's getting kind of long. I've done a lot of things. If you want to see more on this tach adapter, I'll record the fine-tuning stuff. I'm probably just going to leave it be for now, just because I've got it where I want it. If you ignore the wiring, which is kind of bad, but it's in there, I use these kind of stupid vampire things here. I really don't like to use the vampire clamps on wires. It can, it's not good for the wire. It can break strands. You won't get full voltage. If you break strands, technically speaking, when you cut a strand off a wire, it makes the wire a lower rating. So that's the main issue with those. But I'll probably wrap that in tape. I've got some other wiring to wrap in tape. It looks really bad until you get back to here where I tied everything together and made it look factory. All the there's some forward wiring going through here. I've got some stuff kind of running through there. It looks pretty good if you go back that way. But yeah, I've got to get this little mess cleaned up. It's not too bad. I'm probably gonna tuck this down in the corner, but I'll do that later. Yeah, I think I'm gonna end it here. This video has gotten long. I've got a lot of stuff recorded. I gotta just kind of comb through it and see. But let's do an outro. Okay, I figured out that the tach in the Jeep is a 4-cylinder tach, and I know that because I took this crappy aftermarket tach and hooked it up in line with the tach adapter there, and testing this against the one on the inside there was showing a different reading for the 6-cylinder mode on the device. And then when I put it in 4-cylinder mode, it matched, the factory tach matched the aftermarket tach exactly. So that tells me this is either set up in 4-cylinder mode, or I've got a 4-cylinder tach in this Jeep. So I'm gonna go with that. I went ahead and changed the setting on here, and it's working, so I'm gonna leave it. I've got to add that resistor in. It seems to work pretty good. I may just forget about that because it'll read off a little bit, but like for the most part it works, so not too concerned about that. But yeah, I just want to throw that in there real quick before I end this video. Alright, if you made it this far in the video, thank you for watching. We're going to end it here. I've got to rebuild the transfer case. I'm going to make a whole video probably just dedicated to that, and maybe wrapping up a couple other small things on this. For the most part, it's running right now. The tap works, the oil pressure works, coolant temp works, all the gauges working, voltage gauge. It starts. If you didn't look in the engine bay, you wouldn't know that this isn't a Jeep motor for the most part, and the noise. I'll probably get the exhaust done after I get that transfer case in. I want to get that all buttoned up, and that way when I'm doing the exhaust, I don't have to worry about taking the transfer case back out and it being in the way or anything like that. So if you enjoyed this video, make sure you leave a like, share, subscribe, post a comment, because I read all of them. And that's it for now. We'll see you guys next time.